A question that has come up as a result of the quick start pack we've just released, but is one that I have had on my mind for a while, that I've been meaning to answer, and I'm not sure how. I think this video is going to help me put it into words, because I think it's something I'm still thinking about, which is the core issue of how big is a Johnny.Decimal ID? What is that? What does it contain? What is it for? What is its purpose? So I'm going to try and demonstrate this with some diagrams and hopefully get across my thinking, and then I will try and turn this into words once it's solidified in my mind. Okay. Go back to 2010, which is about when this thing Johnny.Decimal was invented. The whole world and everything in it was, and we're going on the left here, from chaos to more organized, right? We're going from chaos to calm. And that's where we're trying to be. We're trying to get to calm. The whole world and everything in it contained your computer, your house, your job, and so on. All those things, right? That was the scope of all of the things. Think about when you sit down to do some work, and I use some work as a shortcut for anything, sorting out that visa for China, figuring out your complicated American travel insurance, or figuring out when you last watered the plants. Doesn't matter, right? Some work. When you sit down to do some work, you start with the whole world and everything in it. And what you have to do is get down to the point where you understand the job to be done and have the tools and mental clarity to do that job. That's where I'm trying to get you. So in 2010, when I invented this system, the world was simpler. iPhones were a few years old for sure. I think the iPad came out in 2010. I remember buying the first one. I told myself I wasn't going to, and the day it was released, I left work at lunchtime and went and bought one. And the internet was around, sure, but I don't think you did literally everything on it. It was just a bit simpler, okay? So what we had then was the world and everything in it. Then your computer was a part of that. And then now we're in Johnny.Decimal world here. And what my system did was try to tame your computer, because your computer was a bit of a mess. And it did that by grouping things into areas and then categories and then finally IDs. And in the original system, an ID was really quite granular. Hence the rule on the website that I used to say, I think I used to say never ever. Never ever create subfolders in Johnny.Decimal folders. Because my idea was, I'll just get rid of those for now, you get the idea. My idea was that when you sit down to do some work, you're in this world down here. You're in categories, and the category of thing to do is like, I'm sitting at my desk and I've got all of my papers open, and then the individual IDs are almost like, okay, I need that document, and I need this document, and I need the other document. And that's what you're doing in the session of doing some work. And you'd do that work, and then you'd be a little bit tired, and you'd have to stand up and get a cup of tea, and you'd come back and you'd do some different work in a different category, potentially, with a different set of IDs. That's how this system was born, and that is the state of the world in 2010 when I came up with this thing. That was the problem to be solved in 2010. Here's what I think the situation is today. The whole world and everything in it now includes your computer and your phone and your tablet and the internet. So what was the top level chaos in 2010, which was the whole world and everything in it, this scarlet chaos, I think has now, your phone and your tablet and the internet has consumed so much that it is now, to all intents and purposes, the world and everything in it. And so everything's kind of been lifted up a level, and you've got your house and your job and all that sort of stuff. So now, areas of your life, Johnny.Decimal areas, and then we've got categories, and then we've got IDs. And so what I think it is that the concept of an ID has expanded, because an ID in my mind is now the place where, if you sit down to do some work, sorting your 10-year visa for China, sorting a complicated American healthcare insurance, figuring out when you watered the plants, whatever, an ID is the place that should contain enough work, enough material, enough knowledge, enough files for you to sit down and do a proper session of work the end of which you're tired and you need to go and have a little rest and get a cup of tea. And I think that's what an ID is. So an ID has grown in my mind. Hence the idea that it's no longer feasible, if it ever was, to be honest. I did used to fairly rigorously I used to keep one thing in an ID, right? And I now see that as probably a bit old-fashioned. I now think that an ID is a place that you get to, and that's like you're sitting down. Now I'm sitting at my desk and I've prepared my papers and I've got a sharp pencil, and now I can sit down and I can work within this ID and I can get all my stuff done. So necessarily an ID has grown and the contents have to be greater. Let me give you I'll give you a couple of examples here. Some are better than others, and I'll show you where I am now in my thinking. I'll see if I can find you an example from my very early system first. Okay, here's something specific. This is my actual personal system, so I've mostly tidied up my old life into the new life admin template, but I do have a whole bunch of notes, just text files collected from over the years. That some of them were my index entries that I've got in my system someday. I'd like to sort these at some point, but they're not important, but they're not in my archive because I will do something with them. So here we go, 15.12. I think 15 used to be technology in my old system. Figure out remote access for Mishi. Mishi's my bestie. And this would have been me trying to figure out some sort of remote access question to get to her photography studio or whatever. That's really specific, right? That's a really specific thing. And I think that is now far too specific for an ID. Some others here, we've got SSH details to Mishi. Oh, there you go. There's some old details about me getting in and configuring her machine. Now, I think that should now be lifted up a level to just be managing her technology. So that's an idea of where I was in 2010-ish. I wonder if this date's got a timestamp on it, although it's not reliable because they've moved around so many times. So don't worry about that too much. Okay, that was then. Now I'm going to show you a recent example. I'm going to show you the folder that we used to produce the Johnny.Decimal workbook. All right. Talk about going the other way. Here's the Johnny.Decimal workbook, 4211, the whole thing. Because, and this worked. We produced a workbook. Lucy and I working together for a couple of months worth of span, and we've obviously got subfolders, but there aren't many, right? Subfolders should easily fit in a mental model. I was going to say on a page, metaphorically on the screen. They should easily fit in a scrollable window because, of course, what we cannot go back to is the chaos we're escaping from. So as long as you have that in mind, as long as you understand, remember what it was like, and that's what you cannot allow yourself to do in these new folders. But here's what we had. We had a whole bunch of stuff, and even we've got a bunch of subfolders. Like, look at releases. But think about this, right? We've got a bunch of subfolders, and you're like, oh my God, he's got a bunch of subfolders. But I hope you will agree there is absolutely no possibility of being confused here. We've got a workbook. That's the entire product. For 2 months, it's all we did. We sat in 4211. And think back to this diagram. When I come into this office in the morning and I need to start work, I've got in my mind the possibility is the whole world and everything in it. And what I need to do is get to, quickly, easily, and with no stress, trademark, I need to get to the place where I can do my work. I need to get to the workbook. And in this system, products, the workbook, that was fine. That worked, right? And in fact, we made a conscious decision not to create IDs in 42, 11, 12, 13, 14, because that kind of felt like you're stepping up more. It feels like I'm opening a drawer every time I need to get a file. Open a drawer, where's the file? Open the drawer, where's the file? Whereas I've opened the drawer and I've emptied its contents onto my desk, and it's fine, it's manageable. So releases, first, second, third, fourth edition, obviously they make sense. Fourth edition, 4.1, and there's the markdown versions with the PDF and the text files. That is fine, that makes sense. We agreed, me and Lucy, that this was probably this is right on the border. This was right on the border of what didn't make us comfortable. So, because, I mean, look, unless it's not clear, I'm making this up as I go, right? I'm making this up. So here's the quick start pack. What we've done for the quick start pack, which we just finished, is we gave it a category so that we could spread our wings a little more as far as IDs go. And I think this has worked really nicely, actually. So we had planning. This is all just kind of thoughts. These are the mind maps where we actually, gathered all the information and did the Johnny.Decimal process as described in the workbook of figuring out, you do discovery and then you split things up. So that's planning. Final folder structure is the thing that I distribute to you. So this is a folder full of the actual structure that we built, and there are the versions. And this has a releases folder with the actual as released zip file, because that'll stay there forever as a point in time. Images and inspiration should be obvious enough. You can see there are subfolders in there as well where it makes sense. Only ever a handful. Research, that's us scraping the forum for ideas. Copy, this is the actual manual, the words. Videos are the videos linked in there. So each one of those has just got a handful of files. There are 2 videos. One of them is the how-to welcome. One of them is the index. Handful of files. Lucy imports those and edits them. And then exports. These are the finished as exported videos with their thumbnails for YouTube. That feels really good. That's the whole product. About 10 IDs. So much so that what I'm going to do is category 44, which is the quick start pack, is going to become a category. It's going to grow and it's just going to become a category, which is quick start packs, because I think what I'm going to do next is release one for, say, small business. And I've got an idea for one for project managers. So 44.21 might become planning for the small business one and whatever, but you get the idea. So that's kind of somewhere in the middle. So for your example, let me knock up an example now and show you what I think you should probably do with your China visa, say. This is nice. I just realized what I can do. I'm just going to drag a copy of Life Admin into this temp folder of mine. We're going to build your system. Let's just haul that out, make it a little bigger. So I've just made a copy of the Life Admin system and I'm going to build it in here for you. So we are talking about your a 10-year visa to China, which understandably takes a bit of work to get and produce and put together. So let's think where that would go. I mean, according to the rules of the system, you start at the top and you work down, and the first thing that hits, it hits. This feels almost like, I know it's not, hang on, let's check my index. Proof of where you were born and or live. For trip-specific travel documents and visas, see 1550. For you, okay, you got 2 choices here. You could either just expand this, passports, residency, citizenship, and a 10-year visa's bordering on residency, right? I know it isn't, but you know what I mean. I'd be partially inclined to put this in 1112, or I'd be partially inclined to create you a new trip at 1550 whatever, and call that trip my 10 years of China trips. In fact, there's an idea. It doesn't matter, I don't think it matters which one of these you choose, because once you get into the subfolders, what's more important? I would possibly create 15.52 all my China trips. And then you've got one place. Again, think about when you're booking a trip to China, what mental space do you want to be in? You probably want to be in the mental space of all of my other trips to China and all of the paperwork to do with me being able to go to China. That's the ID, right? This trip to China is not an ID. The next trip to China is probably not an ID. All of your trips to China are an ID, neatly sorted by date inside there, with a couple of folders at the top for the stuff that spans across them all, such as your 10-year visa. And then I would create, let's just do this, 15.52. China, I'm just going to call it China. Whoops, that wasn't meant to go there. That was meant to go here. And we have a work trip template. I'm assuming this is work, that you're going to China for 10 years. I'm going to drop them in there and delete that. Travel documents and visas. We've already got a folder, right? And in here, if you need, so again, we're subfolders, 1552. We're in 20 travel documents and visas. If you need to create a new one for China visa 2024 through 2034. Mind-boggling time span. Put that in there. And still, if this folder contains dozens of things, neatly organized with subfolders, think about getting from the chaos of the whole world and everything in it through your system and understanding where it is you need to be so that your mind can settle in updating, getting, organizing, catching up on China's 10-year visa for 2024 through 2034. This folder, we've gone from total chaos to life admin, one step, to travel, events and entertainment, and you know you're in the right place. The whole rest of the world of chaos, everything else is gone. Everything, all these other boxes can be deleted, right? That's what we're trying to do here. Forget everything else. You're in travel, events and entertainment. It's got to be longer trips and it's China. It doesn't matter how many subfolders I have, because is it planning, travel documents, transport, accommodation, itineraries or expenses? It's travel documents and visas. And there it is. You can't get lost. You can't feel stressed. You probably can by applying for a 10-year visa for China, but you get the idea, right? That's where I think this should probably be. This is going long. I'm going to stop there. I hope this has helped. It certainly helped me think about what is an ID. What is an ID and how much goes in them? You should be able to sit down and do your work inside an ID.